So, welcome to this masterclass on pricing confidence. Pricing confidence. I know it sounds like a really weird kind of topic. Why would you be talking about pricing when really what you need is more clients? You kind of think, look, I'm just happy to take whatever money I can get in the door, right? So, pricing actually touches every part of your business. You don't have a business unless you're making sales. If you don't have, if you're not making enough sales, then it might be more of a charity. It might be a labor of love. Maybe you're a non-profit, although even some non-profits, they don't make profit, but they still have a lot of money turning over. So if you're in that state where you're thinking, look, I really just don't know how to talk about money. I don't know how to talk about pricing. You feel uncomfortable with the sales conversation, then you're in the right place. Now, if on the other hand, you are somebody who has got lots of experience selling and you are very happy talking about those money issues and that sort of thing, and you've got a lot of confidence there, then I invite you to stop watching now because this is not for you. Okay. Now, even if you've been in business for quite a while, for 2-3 years, or maybe even longer, you may still be thinking everybody else is making it and I'm really, really struggling. Why? And you might even be kicking yourself and not really sure what you're doing wrong. You're frustrated with yourself, frustrated with your clients. I was in that situation myself. So allow me to introduce myself. My name is Anthony English. I am working as a business coach in Sydney, Australia, and I work online with people, mainly in the US, some in Australia and some in other countries. And I had all of those problems that I've just outlined to you. I've experienced them myself, and I've spoken to dozens and dozens of others with exactly the same problem. So rather than me writing on a topic or talking about a topic that I thought was interesting to me, I thought, why don't I talk about a topic that's interesting that I actually know people are literally asking about? So here's how I'm going to work today. I'm going to share with you my screen, and I'm just going to give you a very simple outline, a really very simple framework for you pricing your services and talking about pricing and just knowing how much to charge. And I'm not going to have any pitch at the end. I promise you that. If you like the information here, then you can do a couple of things. One is that you could just use that information yourself and go and apply it yourself. Nothing that I teach you here is my own unique work. Everything, every little piece of information that I share with you, maybe there'll be some examples that are my own, but you could go and find this all on the internet yourself, or you could simply run with the advice or some of the advice if you find it helpful. Or alternatively, you will now know how I work, how I think, and then you may be interested in arranging a call with me to see whether it makes sense for us to work together. But as I say, I promise you there is no pitch at the end of this webinar. I'm not going to be selling you anything. This is a free webinar, content marketing. We call it to share my expertise and to give you a little bit of a taste of how I work, how I think, and hopefully you'll be able to use it, go and make some money yourself, and who knows, you might come back as a client of my business coaching. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen here. And what I want to tell you about is I'm very active on LinkedIn. I write a lot of posts and so on LinkedIn and articles. And I wrote an article, actually I don't have it here, but I wrote an article recently, which was received very well. It was about Cinderella and the fairy godmother. Let me just share with you what that was about. I pointed out that Cinderella, imagine that you are the fairy godmother, and you are coming to visit Cinderella. You're going to wave your magic wand and get Cinderella to the ball. And so you're going to be using kitchen mice and pumpkins and all kinds of things to make that transformation for Cinderella. But then you say you actually put up a price. You actually charge Cinderella a price. and Cinderella says, I want to think about it. So you put in a proposal. You think, well, Cinderella hasn't got back to me. And you put in a proposal. And then eventually you get in touch with Cinderella and she says, yeah, look, I'm just thinking about it. It's a bit expensive. I'm not sure how much I'm not sure if I'm going to use this yet. I'm not quite sure if I'm ready. I need to check with the team. Ever heard that one? I need to check with the team. So Cinderella's going to go and check with the team before she approves your proposal, or it's a bit expensive, or it's outside of the budget, something like this. So you can see that there are all of these kinds of objections, and you're frustrated because you've gone ahead, you're the fairy godmother, and you've gone ahead and you have written this proposal, and Cinderella has rejected it, hasn't even responded. Now, it's really, really frustrating for you, isn't it? So that's very much what happens for a lot of us. We write a proposal, maybe you stay up late at night or on the weekend putting together a proposal, and then you send it off and you've just got no idea when should you follow up? How are they going to even respond? I'm really, really, you're frustrated. You don't know what to do. You don't want to seem too keen. Maybe you overcharged. Maybe you were just want the right fit. You've gone and put in all of this effort and you're not even sure if your price is on target or what. So, fairy godmother, if you don't mind wearing the fairy godmother hat for a moment, before you go into writing a proposal for Cinderella, before you do all of that and putting in all of that effort, and planning out, wow, here's how I'd make the transformation so that Cinderella will become this amazing princess, will be ready for the ball, and here are the glass slippers and so on. Before you do any of that, Cinderella might be asking, you might ask this question to Cinderella: why do you want to go to the ball? You've assumed that she knows why she wants to go to the ball, but she hasn't told you that. She may be in two minds. Let me use a different analogy. Imagine that you are taking people across the river. And now they're on this side of the river and they want to get onto the other side of the river. And you have got a boat. That's what you do. You can transform them. You can take them from A to B. You can take them from where they are to where they want to be. But if you start by talking about your boat and how good it is, how experienced you are, how cheap you are, how affordable you are, and starting to talk about your tools, talking about your expertise, talking about your techniques, then talking about your process, then you may scare them off. Can you imagine catching an Uber, catching a taxi or something like that? And as soon as you hop in, you say, I want to get across to here, I want to get to the airport or something. And the driver says, wait a minute, I'm going to show you under the hood. I'm going to show you, look, I'm a mechanic as well. And I'm going to show you how good the engine is. Like you'll be scared. Imagine if the dentist said, before we get started, let me show you the scalpel. Let me show you the needles that I'm going to use. In fact, even before you become the client, starting to go through your process or starting to speak about your prices. So what I wanted to show you here is that you really need to understand why people want to cross the river, and that's going to affect your pricing. Let me show you how. Okay, so that was where we were about, that was the explanation about Cinderella and the fairy godmother. Okay, Cinderella needs to be asking why, the fairy godmother needs to be asking Cinderella, why are you interested in this? Why is this important? So to put you in full context, you're not sure, here's why you're not sure how much to charge. Maybe you've got no experience selling. Maybe you've never sold anything in your life before. Maybe the last time you sold anything was a lemonade stand when you were 9 years old, and people were or maybe raffle tickets or asking for donations for your school, for some fundraising thing or something like that. But people were really giving you money because maybe because they felt a bit of sympathy for you, a bit sorry for you. And perhaps that 9-year-old you is still running your business today. And so that's something that we need to fix. Perhaps you don't like talking about money. A lot of people have that issue. Most of us feel very uncomfortable talking about money. Now, I'm not a person who says you step out of your comfort zone. I don't think that's usually good advice. Fake it till you make it, or anything like that. I rather get people to step into their comfort zone, into their strengths, to tap into their inner strengths, and so to work on what you're already comfortable with. So that's what we're going to look at a little bit. Now, part of the problem with all of this, if you've got no experience selling, or even if you do, I worked with somebody who was a sales trainer, and she had sold, she had sold products to large companies for like $100,000. She was very, very comfortable selling other people's services. But when it came to selling herself, she was just as nervous, maybe not just as nervous, because she had seen what a sale looks like. But she found it very, very uncomfortable selling herself, because somehow, so you've got a double problem here. One is that you've got no experience selling. Maybe you've got some prejudice or some caricatures of what selling is all about. You think it's being manipulative or pushy, or that you've somehow got to trick people or trap them or into closing the deal or something like that. And none of that is true. You don't like talking about money. And then you've also got it, is that when you're selling yourself. So even because you're selling your services, you're selling your skills, you're not selling a thing, right? You're not selling a product. You're not selling a cake. You're selling your own services. And so you feel judged, don't you? You feel a little bit apprehensive. This is natural. This is actually going to be an asset to you. It's going to be a strength to you in selling, believe me. Okay. And so, but what we tend to do is we leave control in the hands of others. How much should I charge? Well, what's everybody else charging? Well, I'm asking, well, why do you care about that? Why do you care about market rates? Why do you care about what your peers are charging? Well, because I don't want to be too expensive. I can almost guarantee, in fact, I could say I can guarantee that you are not too expensive, and that you probably almost certainly should be charging much more than you are charging right now. But I'm not going to force you to do that. I'm just making that observation. How do I know that? Because you are here at a Price Confidently webinar, a Price Confidently masterclass, and you would not be here if you are confident in your prices. Okay? So market rates leaves it in the hands of somebody else. Where did they get their rates? They were looking to others in the market. Where did they get their rates? Well, they were looking to others. Remember, you are selling your own custom services. You are selling your bespoke way of doing things. There is nobody like you. That is your uniqueness. Now, you are not selling a can of Coke, all right? For a can of Coke or for milk or something, if the prices are not regulated, then there is a market rate, and you're going to have to do something. If you're selling that product, you're going to have to do something special to make it different. But you already are special. You already are unique. You already built trust enormously. And now you're probably having a big confidence problem. So, yeah, but Anthony, I'm actually an imposter. If people only knew that I really don't know all of the stuff that I don't know, if they only knew just how out of my depth I am, they would be like, they would run a mile. Well, my point here is that we're not focusing on your weaknesses or what you perceive are your weaknesses. You are probably a lot better in areas that you didn't even realize. But we're going to focus on your strengths. Okay? We're focusing on what you do have, what you do already work with, the strengths you already have. Let me give you an example. I'll stop the share. We've just spoken a little bit about cash flow and about money and talking about money. Do you get groceries? Groceries. Yes, of course you do. Okay, your groceries, what do you do with them? When you bring them home or you get them delivered or you bring them home from the store, what do? Well, you might put them in on the kitchen bench. We have a kitchen island here, a kitchen counter, maybe you call it, and you put them there. Then what do? Well, you take them, you go put them in the pantry, in the fridge, you use them, right? You have a workflow to do that. Well, all that I'm going to show you, and so what happens is that if you don't do that, then what happens is they're all going to stay piled up on that kitchen bench until the next time you go to the grocery store. You'll just be scrambling around, picking out whatever food you can find, and then it'll all be a big mess. You'll forget to put some things in the fridge. Things will go off. They'll go rotten. The ice cream will melt, and it will be a disaster. So you have a workflow. You have a system in place so that when the next groceries come in, you'll be ready for them. But the aim of the groceries is not just to pack them into the pantry or into the kitchen. It's to use them, isn't it? The same thing happens with money. You're going to have a flow. Otherwise, you're just looking at your bank account, how much we have, how many debts we've got. You don't have that flow. Once you've got a system in place, once you can say the money comes in, here's how we use it, because the money isn't any use to you if it's just sitting in your account. It might give a little bit of peace of mind, but you're just going to be watching it go down, down, down. It's that flow. It's knowing that there are new groceries coming in, thanks to the fact, or there's new money coming in, thanks to the fact that you are making sales confidently, thanks to the fact that you are pricing confidently. Then you can say, I don't actually care if I've run out of money. I do not care because I know where to get it. I don't have just the food in the pantry and then it's going to run out. I have crops outside that keep growing. I'm planting the seeds now. Those crops are going to grow. I'm going to harvest them. And so you don't care even if some of the crops die. Occasionally, you lose one client. Who cares? You're not dependent on one single client to have a successful business. Okay? And so obviously you do what you can to keep your clients, and to keep them happy. But things change and they make decisions for reasons that you don't know, or they don't get back to you or whatever. But once you know that I've got a steady stream of that money flowing in because of that pricing confidence, touches every other part of your business. Your strength comes not from depending on other people or on market rates or on what the client says they can afford. Your strength comes from knowing that your skills are valuable in the market for the right market. Let's get back to it. So let me get back to this document here. Okay, so that's why. So it's about taking control. That's what's going to make you feel confident. You're not dependent on, well, how many likes did I get on LinkedIn? How many people called me back? How many people said they were interested? They expressed some enthusiasm, but then maybe I undercharged, maybe I overcharged, maybe I didn't know, or The other one is that you're too afraid to talk about the price. Now, chances are, if people are asking you about the price very early on, how much do you charge? Then there's a very good chance that the reason they're asking that is because they don't understand the difference between you. It's between you and others, between you and their other options. And so that's what they're leading with, is because there's nothing else to compare with. And so they just compare by price, because price itself is an indicator. I'm going to give you an example. How much would you pay for a watch? I should probably stop using this example because a lot of people don't have watches these days. I don't have a watch, but how much would you pay for a watch? Well, I don't know. I wouldn't pay anything. I don't want a watch. Okay. If you're selling watches, then they're not your market. Maybe I'd pay $100, maybe $500. Some people pay $5,000 for a watch. I would never do that. Some people pay $30,000 for a watch. Now, if I told you about those watches, the $30,000 watch, you wouldn't know anything else about the watch except the price, and you would assume that it's good. The price itself is an indicator of the value. Okay? But if you lead with your price, especially if you use words like bargain, affordable, cheap, inexpensive, if you are saying, fairy godmother, my wand is cheaper, my service is cheaper, that's why you're using me, then that communicates that the point of comparison is price. Well, there's always somebody who can come in cheaper than you. You are tying yourself to market rates, and there's always somebody who's going to be cheaper than you, who's going to come in and undercut you. That's easy. Okay. And so if you are leading with that, it means that you are not confident that your service is something special, that it really is going to make a difference. So let's go back to that analogy again of crossing the river. Okay. My boat is cheaper. Okay. Well, if I've got a lot of different options in crossing that river, then maybe I'll just go for the cheapest one. But if I've got no other options, if you're the only one who's understood just what sort of risks there are in crossing that river and what kind of protection I need, maybe I've got my family with me, maybe we've got some special needs, maybe we've got some special luggage, we've got to get across that river safely and dry and within a certain time frame, and you've understood that, then you have understood what's important to me. So how do we do this in practice? So it's around pricing confidently. Well, think about this. Why do people buy? Well, because they need something. Well, do you know that your biggest competitor is the status quo, is people's deciding not to buy? Before I became a business coach, I worked in IT, and I worked on some very big systems for big banks in Australia and mining companies and so on. And sometimes people would come in and say, we've got an urgent problem. Our banking system is down. It's urgent. And very often I found that when people come out of the blue and they tell me something is urgent, I didn't trust it. I said, wait a minute, why is this urgent? Tell me what the impact is. How big a disaster is this really? And when people say that something is urgent and then they end up, not making any changes, not going with it, they just end up using exactly what they were using before. So that's your biggest competition, is that you're not understanding why people buy. They're not understanding themselves. Cinderella doesn't understand why she wants to go to the ball, and your passenger doesn't understand why they want to cross the river. And so sometimes you may be thinking there's something wrong with my service, there's something wrong with my price, but really the thing wrong with it might be that they are actually quite comfortable on this side of the river. And even though they said, I'd like to go across there, that don't actually want to. And once you've given them a real opportunity, okay, well, if you're serious, let's go, let's do it. That's when they panic. It's nothing about you. It's not your fault. So it's very important to understand why people are buying. Okay? Not what are they buying, but why are they buying? Because I'm going to give you an example. You may be great at your expertise. You may be wonderful at what you do. Let me give you an example. I'm going to suppose that I am a dentist, okay? And I'm really good at what I do. And I have got 15, 20 years experience. People, even celebrities, even TV celebrities come to me because their teeth, all on camera and everything absolutely have to be perfect. And I'm the person they go to. You already, if that was all true, which none of it's true, but if it was all true, you already trust me as the dentist to go to, okay? But if I come up to you and I say, look, I'm a really, really good dentist. I use the latest techniques. I've got the latest equipment. I'm really so gentle. Like even children love me. They ask their parents say to them, where do you want to go for vacation? Where do you want to go? Let's go. We can go on a holiday. They said, let's go to the dentist. That's how much they enjoy my service, right? That's how gentle I am, how much fun I make it. People actually enjoy it. So I've established my authority. But now what if I say to you, well, now that you know how good I am at what I do, can I interest you in some root canal surgery? Yeah, no. It's not enough for you to be good at what you do or to be a good price. You've got to meet people from where they're at and take them. Here's where you're going. Here's where we are. Here's where you want to go. And you've got to establish that. That's going to be the heart of pricing confidently. Let's get back to the little outline here. So why do people buy? So we really want to ask some delving questions here, such as when did this become an issue for you? Why is this important? Let me let's do this here. Okay. Right. Why is this important to you? All right. You're asking questions like, what triggered this? Okay. And maybe if this were to work, what would that look like? What would success look like? Okay. So what we're doing is really just trying to delve into how serious they are. Not so much talking about your service, but we're using a very classic copywriting. So copywriting is, when you're writing for websites or sales pages or emails or that sort of thing, and you're using a very classic formula: pain, dream, solution. What's the pain? What's their current situation? And they're going to be dropping hints. Okay, Cinderella is going to say, I feel so lonely. I'm so quiet. Everybody's at the ball except me. Okay. And your clients are going to say that in another way. I'm on this side of the river and I got to get across there. Everybody, all the fun is over there. That's the future over there. I can't stay here anymore. They're getting restless. There are going to be indications that it's time to move. Here's the point, is that people are buying a better tomorrow. They're buying, they want to cross the river for a reason. So the pain, the dreams, the solution. The pain is really uncovering, if you like. What is it? What state are they in at the moment? What are they struggling with? What is causing them grief, anxiety, fear? And it's not about manipulating them. It's about tapping into it, about empathizing, about showing sympathy. And so even in the sales conversation, you don't have to be some extrovert. You don't have to be some chatterbox like me. In fact, people who are introverts are very often much better at selling because they're good listeners. And they're good at listening and diagnosing and not being the star of the show. Okay, I struggle with that a little bit. Why do people buy? What triggered this? Why is this so important to you? What is happening in their world? Let's say that you deliver new websites for people, and they've already got a website. So, well, what's wrong with the current one? And they may be saying it's not working. Oh, it's working, but it's only okay. We're getting a lot of visitors, but we're not getting enough inquiries, or people are not buying online. Okay, so what can we do about that, and what would that look like? If you are selling publishing services, for example, then what is it that so the writers, the authors may have great ability to write the book, but in terms of putting it all together, in terms of getting it in front of the right eyes, in terms of things like designing the book cover and the marketing materials and just even the logistics of getting images and doing all of that, they just say, no, I just want to dictate the book. I just want to write. And they haven't taken account of all of those other things. Well, now we know why they want to buy. So then you'd be asking them, well, why do you want to write this book in the first place? If you are an editor, then once again, the editor might be asking, well, look, you've used certain language that is really only going to appeal to a particular demographic or to a particular audience and the audience that you're trying to reach is a different audience. You're using language that might be, for example, local terms that are only specific in your country or in your region, and or you're using jargon, you're using technical jargon that maybe people don't understand. Okay. And so maybe you need to unpack that. So an editor may do that, as well as obviously correcting grammar and, streamlining. So the editor is really not just saying, look, here's what I do, but here's why you need it. Let me understand what success means for you. You've written the book, but it's got a little bit, it's not going to be received we want it to be received better by the particular audience that you're selling it to. Okay, assuming that the book is being written in order to make sales, which it may not be. It could be to build authority or for some other reason. Here's my point, is that when you are having that conversation, and we're talking about the sales conversation and pricing and so on, it's not about you. It's not about you. Okay, you're an amazing dentist. Fairy godmother, you've got a wonderful wand. That's amazing that you've got that. But guess what? It's not about you. It's about them and the transformation for them. Okay. And so here is something you can write down. I'll type it up here. If you can describe people's problems better than they can, they will assume you have the solution. Isn't that great? That wasn't invented by me. But if you can describe their problems, what we tend to do, especially in pricing and in sales conversations, is we tend to jump in with our solution. So imagine Cinderella doesn't know who this fairy godmother is, and the fairy godmother comes up and starts talking about the wand and how amazing this wand is, and it's a really wonderful, and here's how I swing it around, and I just do. It's leaving Cinderella to do all of the work. To say, well, so what? Like, why do I care? I'm just sitting here lonely at home, doing all of this sweeping and so on, like among the cinders, and sweeping up these ashes and sewing clothes. Like, I don't care. You're leaving Cinderella, fairy godmother is leaving Cinderella to work out, well, how is this even relevant to me? This is exactly what people do on their websites, on their LinkedIn profiles. They talk about themselves. If your website starts with we, or we are the best, or we provide quality services, here's a list of all of our services, then you're leaving your client to work out, well, is that what I need? And if they're seeing your competitors doing exactly the same, the list of all of the different services that you offer, then what have they got to compare on? Either testimonials, maybe they've got a good referral, or else they're just going to compare on price, because you're not saying there's anything different. You're not saying what's different about you. You're just making claims that you are unique, or that you are the best, or that you're quality, or that you're professional, or something like that, which are claims that anybody can make. Even if they're all true, in your case, you're still leaving the client with a lot of work. And so if, on the other hand, you start to describe the client's problem, well, where does it hurt? Then you are putting it in their terms. What's the impact of that? So let me just turn off this screen again, and I'll show you. So imagine that I'm the dentist again. Now, you don't know that I'm a dentist, but you tell me, but I tell you, it's, oh, look, I can see that your mouth is sore. You've been holding it. And you say, yeah, look, I've been having these painkillers. They've been, and they haven't been working. I've been up all night. It's been terrible. I'm just not sleeping. I'm not able to concentrate, not able to drive, and so on. And then instead of me saying, oh, well, look, you need root canal surgery, I'm going to say, well, how long has this been happening? I'm going to determine what symptoms are important, but which ones are important to you? Well, how long has this been going on? Well, actually, ever since Tuesday, I've really had a sore, and I haven't been able to eat properly. Really? Wow. And how long have you been having those painkillers? You haven't been sleeping? You haven't been eating properly? Is everything else okay in your life? Yeah, it's just this silly mouth. Okay. Really? Does it hurt when you touch? Oh, I can't. Oh. So now we're finding out, where does it hurt and what's the impact? Much more important. Finally, even if you don't have the solution, finally, you've found somebody who understands you, who empathizes with you, who understands what you're going through, what you're suffering, why it's embarrassing. Maybe you're a bit embarrassed. I've been running this business for so long, and I'm no good at marketing. And then I've got a wife or a husband or friends or family or parents or somebody who are telling me, look, just go get a job. And you think, oh, and it's embarrassing. You want to prove to them that you are going to make it, but you don't even know what that actually means. So now we're really digging into the pain, right? So let me go back. So this is what we do in our conversations as well. So you want to qualify your contacts. What does that mean? I shouldn't call them contacts. I should call them prospects. Okay, qualify them. So that means really asking them gently, getting some indications fairly early on that they are the sort of people that you should be working with. Some people will rule themselves out straight away. For example, if they're leading with the price, let me give you an example. Okay, so I'm a cardiologist, and no, you can be the cardiologist, and I come in and I need a heart bypass. Well, if the first question I ask is, what's your hourly rate? Like, I'm not even on the same page. You don't actually care about the hourly rate. I don't care about the hourly rate. What I care about is that I'm going to come out of it alive and that it's going to work. I won't have to go back in again. Hopefully you've protected me from certain risks and protected me from infections and other things. So I am really going to dig. I'm really going to see that if I'm coming in and asking you what's your hourly rate, that already is a bit of a warning sign, right? It's a bit of a red flag, because you should really, what you're selling to me is, maybe another 10 or 20 years of life, right? I'm now going to be able to see my grandchildren when they're born, and you're selling me your expertise. It doesn't really matter how long it takes you to do it. In fact, if you do it faster, that might be a better service for me. So you're qualifying your prospects. And what I mean by that is you're looking out for those signals to see whether they really are the kind of people that you should be working with. Now, if you are not confident in your pricing, then what you end up doing is taking on clients who are not a good fit for you. Okay, they're not, and you could see early on, I never should have taken these ones on. I could see the warning signs way back. Even if they've got a lot of money, I could see the warning signs. And so you're really trying to understand, well, okay, my boat is good. Yes, you want to keep improving your skills and your services and so on. But my boat is good. It's going to carry people across the river. Maybe it's not the most expensive boat, but it's not the cheapest. But people are coming to me because I'm going to do my best to get them from where they are to where they want to be. And I'm going to do it safely, and I'm going to do it well. And so the more concrete and more specific they are about where they are and about where they want to be, and some of those questions that you ask are going to help, then the easier the sale will become. So how do you prepare for that conversation? So I'm assuming that you're in a B2B situation, business to business, and so that your sales primarily happen through a dialogue, not through somebody clicking on a buy now button. Not like selling a book on Amazon. Okay, there's no relationship between you, and if you're selling a book, there's no relationship between you and the buyer. You may not ever know who that buyer is. But in a B2B situation, the way that the sale is going to happen and the way the pricing conversation is going to happen is through a dialogue. And so that's usually going to be on a call these days, very often over Zoom or Skype or something like that. And perhaps on a phone call, maybe over a meeting and coffee. It really depends on your business. So how can you prepare for that conversation? Well, once again, we want to qualify the prospect so that you don't just talk to anyone. You want to understand where are they coming from and where do they want to go. So you're not leading by talking about your services. You're leading by understanding why you're even talking in the first place. So you can prepare for that conversation. Obviously, you can look up their website if they've got one, a LinkedIn profile. You can listen to certain triggers and indicators that they have given you already when they first reached out to you. They may, if they have been vague, then let's see how closely you can qualify things. Okay, you can clarify, because vagueness is usually a sign that people are not ready. And so if they say yes and they're really enthusiastic and then they don't go ahead, and you think, was it my price? Maybe you didn't even talk about the price. Well, the don't accept a yes unless they tell you how we're going to do this. So it's very, very important in preparing for the conversation that you don't necessarily have to use a script or anything like that, but you really need to understand, here's where they are and here's why you're even talking. If they tell you, for example, you're a graphic designer and they tell you, hey, I need a new brand, I need a new logo. Now, if you're a graphic designer, you know that brand and logo are not the same thing. But if you're outside the industry, maybe that's what you think. That's what they're thinking, is that a logo, brand is the logo and that's it, or the colors. Instead of saying, great, this is your lucky day, I can, rubbing your hands, waiting for that money to come in. Yes, I can do a logo for you. You really want to understand, well, why do you think you need a new logo? What's happened? What's changed? What is it in your business that you think having that new logo is going to fix? And so you prepare for that conversation. And then in the conversation itself, you can have an offer. You may not necessarily bring that up in the first conversation. Really depends on on who it is that you're talking to. But you do have an offer, at least in your back pocket, so that you've got something to fall back on, so that you don't feel, if you're feeling that panic, if you're feeling, I don't know what to charge, you've at least got something that you can say, well, fortunately, I do have right here, I've got my my 3-part process, and here's what I do, and here's how much it would cost, or here is a range. We're really trying to understand what is the value to them of getting from where they are to where they want to be. And now, the last thing, and I'm just realizing that there's just so much more that we need to cover that I could cover, but the next thing is to have a next step, and both of you know about. Okay, this is really, really important. Now, the next step may not be buy now. The next step may be, I will send you a proposal. Now, you may not be at that point, but the next step may be, I will share with you an article of mine. If you do agree that you're going to send a proposal, then I wouldn't spend too much time on it. You'd say, look, I'm going to send you the proposal, but before I even start on that, can we arrange a follow-up call? Because I know that you're going to have some questions. Maybe the proposal will just hit the mark and you'll just say, let's go ahead. Or maybe you won't want to go ahead, but can we at least arrange the follow-up call now? If they don't agree to that, don't start on the proposal. But have a next step that you both are clear about, and don't be vague about it. Don't say, oh, well, look, I'll give you a call next week. Here's the way that I like to handle it, is to say, listen, we're both busy. Everybody's going to agree with that pretty much. We're both busy. How about we line it up now? We can line up an appointment now in next week, okay? And then you could even suggest 2 times. You know, I could do Tuesday at 10 a.m. or Thursday at 2:30. Does either of those suit you? And then you send them the appointment. Remember the thing I said before about having the groceries and having the workflow so that the groceries don't just sit on the kitchen bench? This is just like that. You've got a very clear workflow. You're not forcing them, you're offering them, but you are not the hold up here. You're not overloading them with information. You're not giving them too many decisions to make. You're not being vague yourself. So you're not asking wildly open questions like, how can I be of value? Well, that's leaving them with a lot of work to do. You're not sending them a 100-page ebook that's going to take like a ton of work for them to absorb and to digest and to implement. No. You're giving them a very clear next step. Simple example, I'm on an initial call with somebody and I will share with them a single article, or I will say I will introduce you to somebody over LinkedIn, for example, and I'll do that. I'll actually do that on the call, or I'll do that straight after the call. And if we've decided that we're going to take the next step, well, then I'll try to arrange it then and there on that call, actually send them the invitation while I'm on the call with them, and then they will receive it and accept the invitation. Did you get that invitation? Great. We'll see you then. Now, if you feel like that's a bit aggressive for you, then keep in mind that if they're in need, then all you're really doing is you're making it easy for them. They don't have to go back and look up their calendar and then get back to you and all of this. Okay. So have a next step. And now the other thing, and I'm pretty much going to finish the webinar at this point because I've really spoken around pricing in general and confidence in general. But you can see that once you understand what the transformation is from where they are to where they want to be, once you can quantify that, once you can qualify that, then you can say something like, let's say that you do marketing. If I can get an extra 3 clients or an extra 3 to 5 clients within the next 2 months for you, what difference is that going to make? Or maybe you are giving them leads. Okay, you're giving them. If we can get you an extra 10 appointments a week, what impact would that have on your business? Or perhaps you're selling advice like I do. You might say something like, what do you think we'd gain if we were to continue these conversations on a regular basis? What do you think we'd gain if we were to? So we're getting them to articulate why it's important, why it's valuable to them. What do you think that we'd gain? And so what we're really doing here, just to review what we've seen, we're not sure. Here's why we're not sure about what to charge. Just chill out. That's okay. You don't have experience selling. You don't like talking about money, and you're leaving. We're just really taking more control over, so that we're not just in that feast and famine cycle where we're just looking at what's in our bank account. If the number's up for once, then we're happy. And if it's down, then we're sad. Instead of that, we're saying, well, look, here's what I can control. I can't guarantee that we're going to win the championship in the basketball, but I can guarantee that every player knows how to put their socks on so they don't get creases in their socks, so they don't get blisters, so they don't get injuries, so they don't miss the key games, right? And so you focus on what you can control. Take things back into control. Don't lead with the price. Focus on why people buy. What's the trigger? Why are they talking to you? What's changed in the world? Why do they want to fire their existing website? For example, if you're building websites, why do they want to start getting some of that content out there, that copywriting content out there? What's not working in their world at the moment? Why is it important? Remember, it's not about you. It's not about your services. Remember, the dentist doesn't lead with the scalpel and the needles and say, this is how I'm going to do the work on you. No. We begin and we try and qualify them, get them to qualify themselves. Maybe a little questionnaire, ask 2 or 3 questions before you give away all of your time. Prepare for the conversation. Have an offer just in your back pocket, just so that you don't have to, if you're already in a state of turmoil at the moment, a bit of anxiety, then at least you've got something that you can hang your hat on and you can say, well, I could always offer them this. And then have a very clear next step that both of you know about and agree about. So be specific. And now this last thing I want to point out is be happy with a no. What do I mean by that? I spoke to somebody, a graphic designer, about a year ago now, and her business was going, she had lots of clients and her business was a disaster. She was really scrambling to make ends meet, to make rent the following month. And I said to her, well, like, how many of the people that you speak to, how many of them do you actually convert? She says 9 out of 10. Wow, 9 out of 10 of them eventually buy. She said, yeah. I said, I'm not impressed, because she was so scared of hearing that word no that she was basically discounting and compromising and coming in with such a low offer that they couldn't help but say yes. Anyway, we fixed that. And within the 6 weeks, I think she had quadrupled her prices, which I know sounds very impressive, but it's just an indication of just how low she was charging beforehand. So be happy with a no. Okay, a no doesn't mean that they hate you. They detest you as a person. A no just means, look, no, maybe not now. We're not a good fit. That's all we really need to find out is, are we a good fit? You might be getting 3 out of 10. You might be getting 1 out of 10 converting. If it's 0, then we need to focus on how your offer fits your market. But if you're getting like 8 or 10 out of 10 selling, then it's probably time to change your prices, right? Put your prices up. But be happy with a no. The aim of your conversation is not to get a yes, not to make the sale. The aim of the conversation is to work out, is this a good fit? And then the price is a reflection of the value that you are receiving, value yourself, and giving it to them. And the price that they are paying is worth it to them, and the price that you are getting, it's worth it to you. And that's how you build your business. So I am going to finish off there. I've been rabbiting on for over an hour now, so it's probably time for me to stop this webinar, and we'll and once again, I invite you. I promised you that I would not do a pitch, but I will invite you to have a look at my website. Jump on my email list if you want. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and then if you want to take it further, then you know how to get in touch. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to our audience for being a very patient and quiet audience as we arranged. And we'll hopefully hear from you, and hopefully you can follow some of my content, and hopefully we'll get you some sales happening and increase your prices and get you a bit more stability in your business. Once again, my name is Anthony English. Thank you for watching.